Huge breaking news this morning. The President of the United States and his wife, Melania Trump, have tested positive for COVID-19. We've heard from their doctor that they are doing well so far and they're being very carefully monitored. But because of his age alone, at 74, Dr. Hillary has already pointed out he is 90 times more likely and more at risk of dying from COVID-19 than, for instance, somebody in the 18 to 29 category. Obviously, many people sending their personal best wishes to Donald Trump, but already the politics surrounding this is coming out, not least some of Donald Trump's comments about mask wearing. Now, he has been seen recently not wearing a mask when the person who also tested positive, one of his aides, Hope Hicks, is wearing a mask, and he's made many comments in the past. Now, 3 months ago, he told the Wall Street Journal that Americans who wear face coverings are only doing it to show their disapproval of him. After the Centre for Disease Control and Prevention first released their guidance on wearing masks, he said he wouldn't be doing it personally. And as recently as September the 7th, he had this to say to a journalist who was wearing a mask.
The issue of what happens when you are in France continues to be a story.
You're going to have to take that off, please. Just, you can take it off. How many feet are you away?
I'll speak a lot louder.
Well, if you don't take it off, you're very muffled. So if you would take it off, it would be a lot easier.
I'll just speak a lot louder. Is that better?
It's better, yeah.
I mean, also on Tuesday, of course, as we saw in the first presidential debate, he mocked Joe Biden, saying he wore a mask even when he was 20 feet away or further away, and made a joke about it. Now, that's because Joe Biden, he thought, was being overcautious. But this morning, having tested positive for COVID-19, all of this does change, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, and you know, you question why we're making an issue of this and why is this an important thing. But you have to remember, he's the leader of the free world, he's president of America. Every country has now... We are seeing this growing resentment to the virus, this growing denial to the virus. And there's no doubt, has there, that the president at times has got history of playing this down. So I guess what we're hoping for now is perhaps a turn in sort of direction from Trump on this. Let's bring back in Jackie and Ian, who we were speaking to a short while ago. Labour Home Secretary Jackie Smith is in Worcestershire and Ian Dale, of course, in London. Jackie, to you first. I mean, this is, I suppose... I'm sort of sat here thinking, OK, why are we talking about this? Why are we talking about his history of how he's talked about the virus? I guess what we're all hoping is that he will make a speedy recovery.
Absolutely.
And perhaps then there will be a shift of language, a shift of sort of strategy to take this seriously, and maybe that will have an impact on people all around the world who aren't taking this virus very seriously at all.
Well, you're right. We're talking about it because he is a political leader of the country which has so far had the largest number of cases and I think deaths from COVID. Secondly, because he has taken a rather sort of sceptical approach to COVID. He has, as Kate has ably demonstrated, a sort of slightly mocked people for wearing masks and taking other precautions. And thirdly, of course, because we're in the run-up to a presidential election. And in 31 days' time, the US will decide whether or not he continues as their president or whether or not Joe Biden takes over from him. So it would be politically enormously significant at any point in time. But at this point in time, it is even more important. And of course, politicians and leaders have a responsibility both to make the right policy decisions and to communicate and lead by their actions in a way that are going to keep people safe. And he hasn't always done that.
Ian, what do you think?
People, Ian, just one question to Ian. I mean, people are already on social media saying this is karma about Donald Trump. I mean, I don't think... I certainly wouldn't want to say that.
That's a disgusting thing
and we send all our best wishes to him and Melania in dealing with this terrible, terrible virus now that they've got it. However, I suppose the impression that he's given, albeit he might argue it's what leaders do, try to keep a nation calm, has perhaps led to some of those reactions.
Well, you had a guest on earlier from Alabama who used that word himself, which I immediately flinched at. But look, his enemies are going to feel like that. He's a very divisive character. And in a sense, I suppose it's eminently predictable that people would say things like that. But they should be very careful what they wish for, because there will be now calls from Trump's own supporters to postpone the presidential election. Now, I've no idea how that would happen. I don't think it's constitutionally possible. And presumably both houses of Congress would have to agree to that, although I'm not sure, as I say, under the Constitution, whether you can. But if he then loses the election on the 3rd of November, you can bet your bottom dollar that there will be so many people who say, well, this election was stolen from us by COVID-19 and it ought to be rerun, or something would happen. It will get, whatever happens on the 3rd of November, if Trump doesn't win, this will end up in the courts one way or another. And I would say over the next 24 hours, you are going to get a lot of Trump supporters going on the media saying, well, the election cannot go ahead.
I mean, if Donald Trump became too ill to lead the country, Vice President Mike Pence, who's already come forward on behalf of him and his wife and expressed sympathy for the president and the First Lady, is likely to be placed in charge. If he became incapacitated, it's apparently the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, would be the most likely person to take cover. You can't imagine that Donald Trump would like that, can you?
No, I think this is almost, you're portraying a scene out of Designated Survivor. I don't know if you've seen that on Netflix. I mean, look, let's hope we don't get to that point, because that would be incredibly destabilizing. We've already seen the money markets reacting badly to this news. I mean, if President Trump's health deteriorated, we certainly don't need to see any economic consequences from this.
I mean, do you think at the very least we might get a situation where President Trump may say, look, I can't campaign at the moment because I'm stuck in the White House, I can't do my rallies, I can't go out in public, I can't do press conferences. So he might say, I'm going to suspend the campaigning, and then Biden would probably have to do the same. So could we even be in that position?
Well, first of all, I think Ian's absolutely right. Even before this COVID diagnosis, about Trump's approach and his supporters' approach to this election, you know, on several occasions, he has refused to say that he will ensure a smooth transfer of power in the event that he loses the election. And he is most certainly warming up for some sort of challenge if he doesn't win. I would have thought he would be quite keen to suspend campaigning in some ways. I don't think the debate earlier on this week particularly did what he needed it to do in terms of gaining further support. But I suspect those around him running his election campaign will want him to find a way to continue reaching out to the American people, because this is a crucial time. It is not, you know, the election is only a month away, and it is still very, very close at the moment, and there's everything to play for.